Hi, in today's video, we are going to discuss about the deployment pipeline in reference to the agile development, whatever we do. So when we try to understand the deployment pipeline, wherein it's an important concept where it deals majorly with the continuous delivery, where we break the building process into distinct stages in each and every stage, where we get feedback to move into the next stage in regular intervals. It's a kind of collaborative approach between various groups which are involved in agile application development, software development in regular formats. Often the first stage in deployment pipeline, wherein we see over here, wherein to compile the code and converting into the binaries. Followed by this, we run the automated test depending on the kind of scenarios where there are stages which are like performance testing, security check, usability testing, etc. in the deployment pipeline, all that. When we are trying to understand this DevOps environment where it aims to automate all the stages of deployment pipeline with a smooth running of deployment pipeline where we can achieve the goals and continuous delivery as well. But if you see this from the abstract level point of view, where the deployment pipelines automate manifestation of the processes which are getting software from version control into the hands of the users, wherein every change to your software majorly goes through a complex process on its way to being released. Along with this, the kind of process which involved of building the software, which majorly followed by its processes of building through multiple stages of testing and as well as deployment, all that. Now, whenever we are trying to understand the kind of steps which are involved in the kind of steps which are involved in deployment pipeline, the first one is it begins with a developer commits the code to joint versioning system. This is what generally the first one which normally we see, right? So whenever we are working on the deployment pipeline, wherein it begins with a developer which commits to join versioning system and all everything, will be the first step. Second, prior to doing this, the developer have to perform a series of pre-commit tests on their local environment as well. Because of this, the kind of failure of the pre-committed tests and all everything, of course, commits does not takes place in regular intervals is what happens here. Now, then third point is to understand the triggers as an integration to build services which are being deployed and developed. This is also one of the key elements. Followed by this, once any kind of tests are successfully involved and on, wherein building and promoting the quasi-production environment to the staging environment is what we have to do. Apart from that, whenever it is promoted to the production under the close supervision, the period of closure supervision, which is promoted to the normal production, which majorly specify the tasks which may be vary a bit of different organizations. Like example, like if you take any small company, may not have a staging environment or special supervision for recently deployed versions. Whereas when we are comparing this from the larger companies, which may have several different production environments for different purposes. Excuse me. Along with this, whenever we try to define continuous integration to have an automatic triggers between one phase and as well as the next, up to integration test and all that. If the build is successful, then integration tests are triggered. Followed by this, developer responsible for the failure which is notified. Along with this, whenever we are understanding the continuous delivery, which is defined as having a automated triggers as far as the staging system itself is concerned. Next, one more important element in reference to this, where traceability, which has importance in the moment, where any system in production, which is possible to determine exactly how it came to be in the production by keeping track not only the source code, but means of also all the comments that are tools that are activated. At the same time, the kind of elements which are involved in the system also. In addition to that, we need to understand the individual comments which are difficult to trace. Therefore, it is always better to use the kind of scripts instead of commands, all that. So the reason why working on building scripts and all everything in regular intervals is what normally we do in application development, especially in reference to the agile part. Last but not least, the important point about treating the infrastructure as a code, which means the infrastructure scripts and as well as movement scripts should be subject to the same quality control as application source codes, but it should be regulated in the same fashion. Whatever is essentially is what we have seen here. So these are the common and major important steps which will be involved in deployment pipeline in reference to the agile development itself is concerned. This is all about this session. If you have any questions, if you have any queries in regard to this, followed by this any training and coaching needs, please reach out to the contact details which will be posted in below to this video. Thank you.